Well, this is a poem, a very recent poem, based on my experiences with my wife of walking the Beeline Trail, going to the farmer's market, all very visual experiences, which eventually worked their way into this poem. Um, as I said, it's called July, Farmer's Market, and the Beeline Trail. Market zombie, my arms hang straight down, weighted with bags of corn, tomatoes, Asian eggplants, an amber jar of honey for the bagged bread in your left hand, a delicate lemon tart floating flat but wrapped in your upturned right. We're walking the Beeline Trail, half a mile back to the parking lot, day after the 4th. Bikers, some still sporting flags, whirring by, warning, on your left, or dinging their bells. Others a felt stream of hellish speed, arrogant silence. The occasional anomaly of short shorts and heels, enough to slow a biker or strain a walker's peripheral vision. All around us dogs walk their owners, parents their children, while the homeless claim the same benches each day. The music of the market still with us, even the finger cymbals of belly dancers, the perfect clatter of cloggers on a make-do stage. 4 young women having at it a cappella, their voices as sweet a blend as a line of doves. Graffiti entertains with its in-your-face panoramas running the length of 2 warehouses, much of it admittedly gifted. The wonder of its overnight appearance, ephemeral as the lush growth on either side of the trail, Queen Anne's lace, wild phlox and daisies, blooming thistle, chicory, and always the tribal trees of heaven. 10 a.m., the welcome sight of our car, my arms an inch longer, maybe a stop or 2 on the drive home. Blooming Foods for a piece of trout, Marathon for a tank of gas, scene of last year's lingering win, wondering if I dare press the luck of this day's gift with a lottery ticket. You smile and shrug. I know, my dead mother shaking her head. So that's a poem based on, of course, many weeks, months of experience with the farmer's market and the Beeline Trail in particular. The poem actually was revised very recently after having gone through, I don't even know how many revisions. Some parts of a poem will get revised, certainly more than others, and that's the case that I'm referring to here with regard to the last stanza. The earlier version simply had Blooming Foods, or didn't even have Blooming Foods in it. It simply said maybe a stop or 2 on the drive home for a piece of trout, maybe a tank of gas, etc., and then on into the business about the lottery ticket. But my revision, I prefer, because it sort of takes the reader, it gives the reader a little more information with regard to the lottery ticket and how my mind was thinking in that regard in the first place. So that's just some comments about one particular poem and how it can evolve. I've had 2 muses, you might say, one for photography, one for poetry, and the 2 have certainly served each other well, I think. I hope they have, in terms of being mindful of specifics in life, you know, things that you see, things that you hear, and how they affect you and how you respond, in my case, as photographer and as poet. This is a poem called The Photographer, and it's a rather old poem. The Photographer. After rain, he ventures out across the field, tripod and camera floating above his head like a periscope. The tall weeds and grasses slant the way the rain fell, slowing his stride. He is going west with the low sun to a place meant for light diffused by distant rain and a scattering of clouds. Light that even now is flowing down as if on slow currents of air to flood the field warm and yellow. Light that draws from him, like a poultice, some essence of himself. Much of my photography has been landscape, mostly landscape, but frankly I'll photograph anything that catches my eye, and in fact in more recent years I've been working on abstracts somewhat, taking advantage of the macro setting on my newest camera. I've had a lot of fun working with that. The rain has been a serious problem this year. Although only a few years ago we were hoping for all that rain. Well, we got the rain, but we've got some serious problems with the flooding, etc. Not to mention the loss for people in terms of their homes and their personal items. But this is a poem I wrote a few years ago when we were having problems with drought. And it's called Drought's Bouquet. And there is a reference to a Spanish poet at the end who is simply identified as Spanish poet. He remains unnamed, but I will identify the poet after I've read the poem. It's called Drought's Bouquet. Each day clings like a rusty burr. For hues of brown, be grateful. Even the cricket knows it's safe to sing in the sewer. You leave early to walk the creek beds lost and found. Tooled flint, geodes, bones arranged by hunger. As the sun domes to a disk, you enter the field, flat swirls of grass, where last night the deer dreamed. You pick the promised bouquet of ironweed, goldenrod, teasingly damp in your arms, thistle still waving goodbye to the finch as you turn home, the new day's sky a grim prediction of sunny and dry. Be patient. By night, one moon of many names will cool the sky as you shorten the evening reading the Spanish poet, the syllabic pleasure of his name, like 9 green birds. And that's a reference at the end to the poet Federico Garcia Lorca. And I will tell you as a little side note, I counted the syllables in his name several times just to be sure I could come up with 9 green birds and not make a fool of myself and miscount.